Right, Matt, you're live now, I think.
Thanks, Richard. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Subcommittee of Colchester Borough Council. The first item of business on the agenda this morning is to elect a chairman for this meeting. Councillors, do I have a nomination, please?
I nominate Councillor Harris.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations?
Second that.
Very well. We'll just have a quick vote on that, please. Councillor Oxford.
Agreed.
Councillor Wood.
Agreed.
And Councillor Harris.
Agreed.
Thank you. Councillor Harris, you're the chairman for this meeting, and I hand proceedings over to you.
Thank you very much, and a warm welcome to you all. Welcome to this online meeting on Thursday, the 25th of March, 2021. I am Councillor Dave Harris. I'm the councillor for the Beer Church ward, and I will be chairing the meeting this morning. This meeting is broadcast live over Zoom, on the internet, and on the council's YouTube channel, and will be available if you wish to watch afterwards. To begin with, I must spell out a few matters of housekeeping. With the exception of the Democratic Services officers advising us, would participants all please mute their microphones unless they are invited to speak. I will ask for the items of business to be presented, and we will then proceed in accordance with the hearings procedure guidance as per the Gambling Act 2005, which will ensure that everyone who wishes to has ample opportunity to address the committee. To summarise the procedure, I will invite the licensing officer as the council's representative to present the report, and then I will invite the applicant to present their case, and then there will be opportunity for any clarifying questions from the committee or any other party. We may, of course, have a break at 11:30 for physical needs, subject to the progress of the meeting. I will first of all ask each participant to confirm their name, that they understand the procedure I've just explained, and I would to call out each member in turn to confirm that and introduce themselves. Richard Clifford first, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Richard Clifford, Lead Democratic Services Officer.
Matthew Evans.
Thanks, Chair. Matthew Evans, Democratic Services Officer.
Councillor Barbara Wood.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm Councillor Barbara Wood, representing the Tiptree ward.
Councillor Beverley Oxford.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm Beverley Oxford, representing Highwoods ward.
Darryl Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Darryl Lewis, the Chief Operating Officer for Hollywood Bowl Group.
Thank you. Ewan McGregor.
Good morning, Councillor. My name's Ewan McGregor, solicitor at TLT, and I represent the applicants.
Okay. John Ruder.
Morning, everyone. John Ruder, Food Licensing, Food and Safety Manager.
You're on mute, Rebecca.
Apologies. Good morning, everybody. I'm Rebecca Straw, and I'm the legal advisor to the committee, and I'm happy with the proceedings.
Thank you. And Tony Stone.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Tony Stone. I'm the head of amusements for the Original Bowling Company.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I don't think I've missed anybody. Oh, Sarah White. I do apologise. Sarah, last by no means least.
Thank you, Chairman. Sarah White, Senior Licensing Officer.
Thank you very much for that. There are no substitutions. That's item 3 on the agenda, members, because we are the committee. That's Councillor Wood, Councillor Oxford and myself. Any declarations of interest, please? I invite any councillor to declare any interest that's on the agenda that should be either pecuniary or disclosable, non-pecuniary. I say no indications. Okay, item 5. I will now invite John Ruder, the licensing officer, to present the report, please. Right, item 5.
It will be actually Sarah White. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. The application before the subcommittee this morning is for an alcohol licensed premises gaming permit. The application has been submitted by the Original Bowling Company and comes to members for a decision not because there have been objections, but because the council's gambling policy requires that applications for 5 or more machines must be determined by the subcommittee. The applicants are in attendance, members, to address you on their application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That's very clear. Thank you. I've read the papers. Who wishes to speak first on behalf of the applicant, please?
Councillor, it'll be me, I'm afraid. It's Ewan McGregor, the solicitor. I was just thinking about something that John Ruder said earlier about the smelting works and the sort of emissions from there. I did an application a year or two ago in Carlisle, and there's a biscuit factory in Carlisle, and you can tell what biscuits they're making by the emissions that are being sent out by the factory. And the day I was there, I was reliably informed that it was custard creams. Oh, anyway. So I digress. I'm stuck in a very small office, and the reason you've got a virtual background is I'm surrounded by files. Good morning, and thank you for your time. Can I just firstly thank Sarah and Matt Evans for their help in the run-up to this application. I know there are 2 applications which appear at 5 and 6 of your agenda. They are essentially the same, and so I'm going to deal with them together. If you don't mind, and I'll explain the reasons for that as we go through the process. As Sarah said, the reason for this matter coming to the committee is not because there are any objections, but because of your policy. I make no criticism of your policy, but I think, and we've faced this before in one other local authority where my client has applied for the machines that they have done, and gambling licensing policies perhaps are probably primarily aimed at the pub world, where if a pub applies for more than 4 or 5 machines, then you would want it to come to committee, and quite rightly so. What it doesn't account for is a business like the one that my client operates, and I'll explain what they do shortly. The Original Bowling Company have 2 main brands, which is Hollywood Bowl and Putt Stars, and they are very much looking forward to being part of the significant new redevelopment at the Northern Gateway, which obviously is clearly a very major part of the redevelopment within Colchester, and you'll be very familiar with that. And not only will my clients be there, but there is, as I understand it, and the information I've been able to glean is that there is a cinema, there are restaurants, and there are hotels. And then part of the overall leisure offer is the Tenpin Bowling Alley, and the indoor golf centre, indoor putting. And both of those premises have got alcohol licences granted under the Licensing Act, and they've introduced themselves already. Daryl Lewis, Chief Operating Officer, and Tony Stone, Head of Amusements, are on this call. If you've got any questions for them, then clearly they'll answer them. I'm not proposing that they give any evidence. I will explain the background to the application. If there are any questions, then they will be able to help you. The applications for the permits are in line with what the Original Bowling Company has applied for, and in fact has had granted across the country where there have been existing licenses or new developments. And we are respectful of your policy and more than happy to appear before you today and explain the reasons why we've asked for 5 Category C and 35 Category D machines. We provided the committee with some papers, which is some training documentation, some policies, and also a layout plan. The layout plans I'll come to very shortly, but I'm going to deal with the application in this way. And Councillor, you referred to a comfort break at 11:30. I hope I'm finished way before 11:30, which will come as a blessed relief, hopefully to you all. But I'm going to deal with it in this way. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Original Bowling Company. I'm going to tell you why they have applied for the machines that they have done, and then briefly talk about the policies and procedures that they've got in place. The Original Bowling Company was formed back in 2010 out of a number of different businesses. They are the single largest provider of Tenpin bowling centres across the United Kingdom. They have 60 sites in England, Wales and Scotland across those 3 jurisdictions. And in each of those sites, they have an alcohol premises licence and a licensed premises gaming machine permit. And the permit across the estate, and I provided you with some information, grants a variety of numbers of machines. And I'll explain why there are different numbers of machines for different premises. And what my clients aim to do is to provide a fun-filled, safe environment for a broad cross-section of society, and in terms of ages as well. Closest sites, I think, to Colchester. I'd studied geography A-levels, so if I've got this wrong, someone will tell me that I've got this. My geography is perhaps a little out of sync, but there are sites in Basildon and in Southend, which I think are possibly the nearest sites to Colchester. Their main concept is Hollywood Bowl, which is 10-pin bowling with 24 lanes, an arcade, an amusement area, a bar, diner, selling a variety of food and drinks, both alcoholic and soft drinks. And they've got a new concept, which is called Putt Stars, which is a mini golf concept. And there are 3 novelty indoor putting courses within Putt Stars. And at the present time, they have 3 courses or centres up and running, and then those are in Leeds, York, and Rochdale. And just bear in mind York, because I'm going to return to that shortly. And in all the time that Hollywood Bowl have been operating their sites, there's never been an issue with a licensed premises gaming machine permit that's been granted. There's never been a situation where the permit has been threatened by revocation, or indeed where any regulatory action has been taken. So over a period of time, they've developed an expertise in running these centres. They know how to run these centres, and they know how to correctly operate not only their alcohol premises licence, but also their gaming machine permit. So why do they apply for the machines that they do? Well, they have considerable experience over the years in developing new sites, and the application for 5 Category C and 35 Category D machines is, in their experience, both appropriate and proportionate for their business model. And whilst the schedule, as I've said, of machine permits at page 25 of your report shows that some sites have more machines and some sites have fewer machines, the reason for that is that as the sites have been developed over the years, different size sites and different size developments have got different numbers of machines. But in more recent years, they have established a format for their applications and for their sites. As a consequence of that, in all of the recent applications, and we've been doing their licensing for many, many years, but in all of their recent applications, permits for 5 Category C and 35 Category D machines have been applied for and have been granted. And those the relevant sites there are Leeds, York, which is both Hollywood Bowl and Putt Stars, Derby, Liverpool, Basildon, and most recently in Southend and in Reading. And there are plans that we've submitted to your officers, which form part of the report, and they're at pages 17 and 61 of the report. And it is the company policy that all the Category C machines, which are situated adjacent to or beside the bar surgery, so that they are in full view of those that are working. And that provides for greater supervision. And because those machines are, of course, for over 18s only, and I'll come back to that in a minute. The setup in York is very similar to the proposed setup in Colchester, where you've got both a Putt Stars and a Hollywood Bowl. And both of those brands or formats have permits for 5 Category C and 35 Category D machines. And what Hollywood Bowl or the original bowling company have found is that people go to one or the other for their full night's experience, and they don't flit between the two for perhaps their amusement or their arcade experience, and then go to the other for their putting or their 10-pin bowling. So the reason why we apply for the same number of machines in both premise is so that we can provide our customers with a full evening's experience. In terms of policies and procedures, and we've provided you with some information on that, those procedures and policies have been developed over time. All team members receive age verification training before commencing their roles, and that includes members of management. That training has to be refreshed every 12 months, and the age verification training relates not only just to alcohol, but also to machines. And those that work on the site are all empowered to challenge where they believe that somebody might be under the age of 18, whether that's in the sale of alcohol or that is those that might be using the category C machines who they may believe are under the age of 18. So staff are empowered to make those challenges. They receive training across the board in relation to that. Team members carry out daily machine checks and age verification checks. And all of these are logged in what is called the Green Due Diligence Logbook. And that forms part of the audit process. The premises are audited by internal auditors. Security checks are also carried out. Mystery shopper visits are carried out. And the regional security managers also carry out regular visits of the premises as well to ensure that not only the training is being carried out, but that actually it's been put into practice at the site. So there are various levels of due diligence checks along the way. As I've said, category C machines are in full view of the bar. There are no under 18 stickers and GamCare stickers are on the machines, and the company adopt a Challenge 25 policy, both on the machines and also at the bar. And where necessary, third parties are sometimes invited to carry out age verification visits to make sure that those policies and procedures are in place. Self-exclusions are available where necessary, although it perhaps won't surprise you that given the nature of these premises is that there are very few self-exclusion requests from customers. So we're not talking about a betting office or a casino or a bingo club, but we're talking about a very different environment. And that, Councillor, is really all I've got to say. It is hopefully, I don't take anything for granted, and I'm not being quick for the sake of it, but actually there's very little to say about this because the way that the business has developed, they've got policies and procedures in place. If you look at your report at page 8 and 3.3, and it sets out the sorts of things that you should be looking at when considering this application. It talks about the siting of the machines, which I've explained, the training, the ongoing training, the age verification checks, the signage on the machines, and the GamCare notifications. All of those are in place. And so I would invite you to grant the application, given the considerable experience that my clients have of operating these types of premises and these types of permits. One other thing I should say in relation to the category C machines is that we're not talking about amusement with prizes machines, but we're talking about crane grabbers and penny falls that you might have seen on Tipping Point on the telly, which strangely has become a huge program, but actually a very clever format. But those are the sorts of machines that fall within the category C, and which of course anybody is permitted to play. So that's is the application. I don't take anything for granted, as I say, for being quick, but actually there's not a huge amount more that I can say. We come before you because of your policy. I make no criticism of that. I understand that. Your policy perhaps doesn't take into account the nature of the premises that my clients operate, but I fully accept that and we're respectful of that.
Thank you very much, Mr. McGregor. Thank you. Any other members of the application team would like to speak at this time before I invite councillors for questions? No, I'm saying Councillor Wood, did you have a question? You're muted.
Sorry.
We all do it.
Yes, I do have a question. On page 19, under the Hollywood Bowl group, under category C, it's got these are identified as over 18 amusement with prizes. Then on the then further down it says signage must include no over 18 symbol. I find that a bit contradictory.
I think that's a typo, and I admire and respect your ability to pick that up, but it should say no under 18 simple.
Right.
I apologise about that, and no doubt somebody will be amending that as quickly as we possibly can. But it is
notes as we speak. So yeah, apologies for that. It's actually because the signage has a strike through it, so I think it's an 18 with a strike through it, which is probably why we've ended up with the confusion there. So apologies for that. We will certainly amend that going forward.
Okay. Thank you. I did have a question, but you answered that in your speech. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Councillor.
Ewan, I have to say I'm blessed on this committee to have Barbara Wood with us, because she keeps us on the straight and narrow with grammar, spelling, and typo. She's brilliant. So thank you for that, Councillor Wood. Councillor Oxford.
I have a sort of an unusual question, really. It's the putting one. If people are going there for putting and enjoying sort of playing mini golf, I suppose it is, why do you need gambling machines at the same time? Surely the putting thing is what people are supposed to be going for, and putting gambling machines at the same time is a little bit overkill.
It's probably a question that is better answered by Daryl, who's the Chief Operating Officer. But I suppose, well, I'll let him answer, and then if there's anything I can add to that, then I will. I suppose it's about providing a range of experiences, which is, I think, worked in York, Leeds, and Rochdale. But I'll leave that to Daryl.
Thank you, and really good observation and question, and it applies to golf as well as to bowling. Our core offer is what people come for, which is either the 3 9-hole golf courses, or from a Hollywood Bowl point of view, it's the 20 bowling lanes. A core part of our business offer is to allow people to dwell and enjoy time a little bit kind of beyond that. So we create a nice kind of bar environment that, whilst our core business is family, and it wouldn't be surprising to hear that our peak trade is kind of Saturday afternoons into very early evening, and the same on Sunday. There is a business model with celebration packages and people coming together and enjoying time as work colleagues that people then enjoy drinks in the bar, and the cat C's are there as an add-on to encourage, I guess, a little bit of dwell time, and are such they're great for a service and to give people a reason to dwell, but they are such a small portion of our overall amusement spend per game. So it's a fraction. So on average, whilst the core offer, 51% of our revenue will come from either bowling or the from the golf. Depending on the centre, anything kind of between 23 and 28% comes from the amusements, of which a very, very small percentage of that is through the AWPs. We make significantly more money from the basketball machines as families kind of have fun, or the cranes and those kind of things. So I guess to answer your question a little bit more concisely, I think it adds a little bit of dwell time into the bar, which is why we put them into Put Stars and into Hollywood Bowl.
Could I follow up with that, please? Is it actually necessary, with gambling addictions going through the roof, is it actually necessary to have so many category D gambling machines? Are you not feeding a very bad habit? Obviously not you as a company, but having the opportunity for people to do that is just feeding a habit that is really on the increase. Why do you have to have so many machines?
We again, I think as Ewan has has talked about. We've actually reduced them over the years because of utilising the square footage of the centre. So we find that 5 is optimum, just so that we meet the demand at peak times and people can play them. So actually, what we're then not causing is a queue to go and play on the 1 or 2 Cat Ds that we might have, and actually create dwell that we may not need. I think it's getting the balance right between offering good service by being able to play one immediately, and also worth noting that our Cat Cs are our teams are trained to kind of watch out for regular visitors, and we manage that very, very carefully. We don't have in any of our centres people knocking on the door at 11 o'clock in the morning to play these. They're very much a part of a family entertainment centre. But I certainly take on board your feedback, and it is a diminishing industry in terms of the category Cs, and we've certainly seen that. So if the demand isn't there for the 5, we will reduce it to 3, and so on and so forth. We don't need more than 5, but where it's wasted square footage, if you like, and it could be another set of tables and chairs, then we would optimize the space that way.
Councillor, can I just thank you for raising the point. In relation to, you made a comment about increased levels of gambling addiction. The most recent reports that came out, and I haven't got the actual figures to hand, but the most recent figures that came through from the Gambling Commission showed that the incidence of gambling, problem gambling has fallen over the course of last year rather than risen, and that those levels remain at a very, very low level. What we're talking about within these premises are machines right at the lower end of the scale. So you have machines that are from category A down to category D, and that these are machines that are very much at the lower end of the scale, and that in relation to the category C machines, a small number, and that are all cited within the bar. And the important thing to look at is the process, policies and procedures that the operators have in place to ensure that there is an interaction with, firstly, customers who might be under the age of 18, who might try and use the category C machines, and that's why they're positioned near to the bar, and also policies and procedures that are in place to interact with those customers who may wish to gain help with possible problem gambling issues, or self-barring or self-exclusion, and all of those procedures are in place.
Satisfied, Councillor Wood? Councillor Oxford?
The category D ones, you've got 35 of them in the putting one, and I think same in the other one as well. So a category D one, to get it right in my head, is that what I would call a slot machine, where you put your money in, you pull a handle or bash a button? And no, it isn't. Okay, I think I've got myself confused with my C's and D's then.
Yeah, well, but maybe we could ask Tony. So Tony's head of amusements. You could just explain what a category.
Thank you. The category D machines that we currently operate within our business tends to be that of the cranes. So those are the machines that you win teddy bears from. So if it's a double where there's 2 different types of toys, there's 2 separate licenses for it. As well as a penny foil machine, or those pushers. Normally there's a bed. Each bed comprises of a license. So in general, we normally operate anywhere between 8 to 10 beds. So therefore, that 8 to 10 license. Hence the reason why we're applying for 35.
Right. Okay, I've got it in my head. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oxford. Is that it? Thank you, Councillor Oxford. I've got a few questions. My first one is about the training, because you eloquently talked about the training that seems very well organised and mandatory, in fact, and refreshes every 12 months. And I like the idea of the mystery shopper, so I quite like that test and making sure that everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. But can I ask about the refresher training? Say I was trained on day one, how do I know in a year's time, without putting it in my diary, that my training's up for refresher? Do you have automatic pop-ups that say you can't operate until you get a refresher?
I can see Tony nodding his head, and Daryl has slipped off my screen, but I'm sure that it's right, is that there will be a process that
if I may, we use all of our training is available electronically through a company called CPL. So we're able to track and monitor the status of all of our team's training, and we pride ourselves on our team having a one-to-one every single month. So not only is it about what we believe their training needs and development are, but also gaining feedback from them to ensure that they feel confident and comfortable in doing the role. So whilst this particular training is on a cycle of every 12 months, if at any of those one-to-ones they feel because of an incident that's happened, they would like some refresher training, we would set a time aside, the time needed for them to do that. It would be minuted in their one-to-one that they've received that additional training. So that's from everything really. That's around, you know, how well they're doing with their sales, how well they're doing with the kitchen, their fire drill, their health and safety training, the new COVID training that we've had to introduce over the next, over the last 12 months, and we'll be refreshing that again. So team retention is a core part of our strategy, and we have a world-class best in industry support structure. So our regional support managers only operate and support 9 centres each. So they're able to get around almost on a weekly basis. We have Tony heads up the amusements, but we also have another 2 support managers just for the amusement department. We have 2 or 3 people permanently for food and drink, and as well as the audit department. So we run a pretty flat structure. So, you know, getting in, catching our teams doing things right and celebrating the great work that we do is really part of what we do. And enabling us to have that interaction around training is a key part of that. It helps us retain some really, really great people.
Thank you for that, Mr. Lewis. Can I just confirm that that remark applies to both Hollywood Bowl and the Putt Stars? Right, thank you. I just want to make sure that I've got it in 2 separate items on the agenda, and I don't want to separate them at this time because we could consider them differently when we make our decision. My next question is on the self-declaration form, which I was quite pleased to read because I've read the Act. I'm that sad, I know, to have read the Gambling Act 2005 and rehearse myself on it. That I thought seems very good practice. The operators, I think, Mr. McGregor would be able to answer this better than you could, because they're in the front line. How often do these get used? How often do you see that sort of paperwork, and how do you publicise that they're there?
So they happen very, very infrequently. We Tony and I were only talking yesterday, and whilst Tony has been with the business a long time, his head of amusement role has been over the last few years, and we couldn't recall one in the last 2 years, albeit that we've been closed for 1 year of those 2 years. We have an internal policy where if somebody an incident happens and we consider this an incident, we would raise an internal incident report form that then goes to myself and other members of heads of departments and the board. So including our head of talent and support process. So should we get these, the appropriate support would be there for them. So the centre managers are trained that if somebody fills out one of these, we would then produce our own incident report, and it gets circulated across the relevant people within the organisation.
Thank you for that, Mr. Lewis. Very satisfied with that answer. Thank you. My next question is on page 17 on the map, the location map, and this is following on from Councillor Oxford's question about the category C and the category D. I can see you've plonked the category C absolutely in full view of the bar. There's a cluster there that says where they're blocked. Is there a blind side to those machines? You seem to have 4 in a cluster. Would somebody standing the other side of those machines be hidden from the bar staff, or are they so short that you can see over the top of them?
I think there are a couple of answers to that, and Tony will be able to tell you about this, the height and the size of the machines. Is that it's not just supervision from the bar, but there are members of staff that are almost constantly walking the I call it shop floor, but I think you understand what I mean. Is that the floor of the premises, whether they're either taking food or drink to the lanes, or helping customers from reception to their lanes. So there's almost a constant presence of staff. It's not just from the bar, and as I said earlier, all those staff have they fulfill a number of different roles, and they're all empowered to make those challenges. But in terms of the height of the machine, that's perhaps something that Tony's better positioned.
Yeah, the height of the machine. If where that cluster is, Councillor, those machines are side on. So from the view of the bar, they will still be able to see those. Equally, as Ewan was suggesting, we actually have lane servers that operate on the lanes where they take food and drink orders, and they will be able to make any challenges as well.
That's much better understood now. Thank you. And any idea about the distance from the bar to those machines? I mean, I can't gauge on a blank piece of paper exactly how far that distance is from the bar to those machines. Is it 10, 20 foot, 30 foot?
You might have 15 feet.
Oh, fine, that's brilliant. Thank you. And if I was standing there, this is the last question on this theme to support Councillor Oxford, with my child or my grandchild, would that be allowed? I mean, I would be standing there operating the machine, but I'd have a child beside me. Is that what would happen there? Would I be challenged?
As the operator of the machine, as long as you will be challenged, we challenge most people because we operate a challenge 25 policy. So you'll be challenged equally.
Right. Yeah, I meant if I had my daughter with me, you know, or granddaughter who's 10 or 12, and she was in the building on a wedding anniversary, we're having a putting experience. You know, that's the sort of experience I think that, you know, you're aiming for. Would my grandchild be allowed to stand with me and watch me, or would I be banned from having any minor under 18 away from me?
So there's nothing, as long as you, the person operating the machine, is over 18, that's permitted, and there would be nothing to stop you having your grandchild next to you whilst you play those machines, in the same way that if you were in a pub, exactly the same thing could happen. That would be a matter for you and your sort of personal choice as to whether or not you thought that was appropriate.
I have no other questions. Thank you for those answers and the presentation. Councillor Wood.
Yes, can I ask, following on from children, do you ever get moments when in the premises you have more children than adults?
Good question.
Yes, we do. But it tends to be in the mornings. We have a really fantastic outreach program that's called Cool Schools. So we work with local schools around education, and end of term rewards are a core part of us getting people involved with mini golf and bowling. It allows us a real kind of connection with the local community. We have, because actually adding up a game of bowling is pretty complicated. We actually do spreadsheets for school children and activities, and they tend to, outside of the COVID situation that we're in at the moment, it tends to be a classroom or two classrooms that are then accompanied by whatever the school's risk assessment is in terms of the number of adults per child, and they tend to happen as we are opening or just before we open, and so yes, probably weekday mornings or during term time are probably the only time that would happen.
Satisfied, Councillor Wood? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we're at that stage now where I need to ask our lawyer, Rebecca Strawn, if there's anything that I need to consider before we close and go off to a separate meeting?
No, Chair, I think everything's been very well covered today, so we're ready for deliberations.
Thank you very much. No final comments, Sarah White?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I think the Democratic Services Officer will take control now, and we will go on.
So could I just ask, could I just invite you to consider the two applications together, because they are, I know that they appear at separate agenda items. If you separate them out, then we're going to be going through the same. I'm going to make the same presentation to you again for Hollywood or Puttstars. So they are essentially the same application.
I was going to advise the committee that we should consider them together. So yes, thank you for that.
Yeah.
But that is it. That is my intention.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. That's very helpful and thanks for raising that, Mr. McGregor. Matthew, we're in your hands.
Councillor, you just need to move, although this is slightly unusual, you need to move that the public be excluded from the meeting, although even though it will be the councillors who effectively leave, I think you should carry through that procedure.
So under item 7, Matthew is completely correct. In accordance with section 100A, category 4 of the Local Government Act 72, to exclude the public, including the press, from the meeting, so that any items containing exempt information, for example, confidential, personal, financial or legal, in part B of this addenda, be decided. Can I move that? And could I have Councillor Oxford and Wood to second and move that, please? Thank you, Oxford. Councillor Oxford. So all agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Matthew.
So, thank you. The committee will retire now to a private meeting, and this Zoom channel will remain open and the broadcast will continue. So please, can you keep your microphones muted until the committee return to this meeting and give their verdict following their deliberation. Thanks very much.
Hi, Councillor Wood, you'll need to leave this meeting and join the Teams meeting that Matt sent through to you.
All right.
So,
thank you.
yeah. Chairman, are we ready to resume? Do you want me to stop sharing the screen?
Yes, please. Please, thank you, Richard. A fresh good morning to you all. Hope you can all hear me. Thanks for giving us a short time for deliberation there. Reference agenda item 5 and agenda item 6, which we've took together. Following deliberations, the licensing subcommittee has reached the decision to grant the licensed premises gaming machine permit applied for by the original bowling company trading as Hollywood Bowl in respect of the premises Unit 4, ground floor, Northern Gateway Leisure, United Way, Colchester. The permit authorises the provision of 5 Category C and 35 Category D gaming machines. The subcommittee has also reached the decision to grant the licensed premises gaming machine permit applied for by the original bowling company trading as Puttstars in respect to the premises units L1 and L4, first floor, Northern Gateway Leisure, United Way, Colchester. The permit authorises the provision of 5 Category C gaming machines and 35 Category D gaming machines. In reaching its decisions, the subcommittee examined all the documents submitted and considered all the representations made at the hearing. The subcommittee, I have to say, was particularly assured by the policies and the procedures that have been adopted by the applicant to mitigate against gaming harms, including the staff training programs you've put in place, the self-exclusion policies and machine placement, and expressed confidence in the way that the management of the premises has been presented. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and thanks for giving us the time to consider the application. Thank you.
Councillor, can I just thank you and your colleagues for your time and for those kind words and the confidence that you've expressed in my clients, and I'm sure that they will reward that confidence. It is going to be some time before they open, but they open in April. I think it's going to be 2023, which seems an age away, but given that, yes, but no doubt looking forward to when it does open. But thank you very much to you and your colleagues. And I was true to my word that we would be done by 11:30.
And all the best to you and your businesses. And I hope that you succeed in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
Kind of you, and thank you to you all for your consideration.
Thank you as well.
Okay, I'm going to close the meeting now. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, officers. Okay, all done?
Matt, it's still streaming.